What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the Week 6 NFL Final Look picks for Sunday. We have a 10-game slate, a couple games less than we've had the first 5 weeks, so a little bit easier to kind of narrow down the player pool this week, so looking forward to it. I'm making this video right now on Friday morning, so there's still a lot of potential players that might get ruled out before Sunday, a lot of guys that were limited in practice on Thursday or didn't practice Thursday, so we'll see if they're able to take the field on practice on Friday. But nonetheless, let's get into the video. If you guys enjoy the content, appreciate it if you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Twitter at the DFS Process. NBA starting next Tuesday, so hopefully we can have a big weekend and kind of bump our bankroll up a little bit for NBA, which is a daily grind. Starting off with the quarterback plays, there's a couple at the top. You have 3 at the top end that I'm really looking at: Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. You have a couple of other names in the mix, above 7K, like Dak Prescott, like Rodgers, but I like these 3. Murray and Jackson give you the running upside. Lamar Jackson didn't practice on Thursday with an illness, but I think he should be good to go. Hopefully he takes a field today. But Herbert doesn't give you much running upside, but he's just so good as a pocket passer, and this game should be an absolute shootout. It is my favorite one to target on the slate, so I'm looking to jam in both sides of it. Right now I favor the running quarterback, Lamar Jackson, so right now I have him there. It's also easy to stack him with Marquise Brown and or Mark Andrews, with Sammy Watkins most likely not going to play with the hamstring. Just a little bit less of a competition for targets without Watkins, even though they could get their first round pick Bateman in action, but he should be probably limited at least a little bit to start. The mid-range, you only have a couple here that I'm looking at. Joe Burrow I like the most compared to Matthew Stafford. He's like only $6,300, good matchup against Detroit. They're on the road, so hopefully this game stays a little bit closer. Detroit has actually stayed in a lot of their games this year. They just have lost so many heartbreakers on last-second field goals and last-second drives. It's been insane. But I expect Joe Burrow to still be able to move the football against that defense, and he makes for a great pairing with Joe Mixon. If he's 100%, because Samaje Perine's not going to be able to play, and if Perine's not there, and Joe Mixon's the only other running back that has taken a carry so far, so I think Joe Mixon, if his ankle is good to go, he should be looking at a heavy workload. You could do a Burrow, Mixon, and Jamar Chase stack. Then the value play is Taylor Heineke against the Chiefs. Chiefs defense has been absolutely putrid every single week so far this year. Heineke is going to have to throw the football a lot to stay up, to keep up with the Chiefs offense in this one. He's only 58. I think a very popular connection is going to be Heineke and McLaurin. So maybe, you go Heineke, but pair him with a different receiver if you're looking for some tournament options to be different. Maybe you go with Gibson or McKissick instead, because you're going to have to throw, so McKissick probably will be a sleeper this week. And then Carson Wentz against Houston. You compare him with Michael Pittman. He's just very affordable, 54. He looked healthy. They should have won against the Ravens. They lost some of their cornerbacks, so the Baltimore Ravens just moved the ball downfield the entire fourth quarter, and the kicker missed the field goal to win the game. But Wentz, 54 against this Houston defense. I think he's fine as a value play. Moving on to running back, the mid-range is super strong. A lot of the weeks we've had the mid-range be super strong at running back, and this week is no different. Top end, you have Austin Eckler, Dalvin Cook. Right now, Christian McCaffrey said he's like 50-50 to play. I don't know if he'll take a full workload. If he does, he didn't practice on Thursday, whereas Dalvin Cook was a full participant in practice, and his backup, Madison, was limited. So if for some reason, if Madison isn't able to suit up on Sunday, then I would expect Dalvin Cook to get a huge workload. If Madison is in and Cook is in, which he should be, then I probably like Eckler the most. But if there's no Madison and Cook is the only guy there, then I think he probably looks to be the best running back. He's also super cheap because he hasn't played a lot this year and he's been hurt. But Eckler, if you're looking to stack up that game, he looks great. Not only playing a big role in the ground attack, he's also getting a ton of red zone opportunities, whether that's red zone carries or red zone targets. And he's going to be looking at probably like 7+ targets every single week. The mid-range is where a lot of the decisions will be made this Sunday at running back. You have Jonathan Taylor, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift. I threw Henderson in as a value play, but you got 4 guys between $6,000 and $6,600 that look super appealing. They all have good matchups. Taylor's coming off a monster game, so he probably will be popular if people look at the box scores. I think Swift looks to be one of my favorites just because he gives you that dual threat, rushing and receiving. They lost Quintez Cephas. The matchup is solid against Cincinnati. So without Cephas, you could see more targets for Swift. Mixon, if we get word that he's not going to be limited or anything like that, He looks great against Detroit. They've been one of the worst teams in the league in terms of stopping the rush, and Mixon can get you a huge workload early in the weeks. Early first couple weeks, he was on the field like the whole game. It's only been the last couple where he's been bothered by some injuries. Then the value play is Darrell Henderson against the Giants. He's $6,000. It's been his backfield. Michelle mixes in a couple, but it's Henderson getting most of the work. Then we have two running backs that are in the $4,000 range that are going to get a good amount of workload this Sunday. One that we already knew about at the beginning of the week, which was Darrell Williams from the Chiefs. Without Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he should play a big role on first and second down. They could throw McKinnon in there on third down, but I still think Williams will get a good amount of targets, probably like 4 to 5 targets. And then Khalil Herbert is just a new name that's popped up on this list because, unfortunately, Damian Williams is on the COVID-19 list, so he's probably unlikely to play because he has to clear all the protocols within like 2 days or 3 days. So if he's out, which it looks like he will be, then Herbert is going to get most of the first and second down work. Maybe they'd throw Ryan Nall in there on third down, but I think Herbert will still look to get like 60, maybe 70+% of snaps. He's $4,600 against the Packers, so he looked good in his first real action last Sunday, and hopefully he's able to continue that because they're going to need him against the Packers. All right, over at the wide receiver position, Davante Adams is the top of the list. He's $9,000 against the Bears. You know what you're getting out of Davante Adams every single week. Good amount of targets, huge touchdown upside, huge target share. So on a week where a lot of the other big names are questionable right now, I think you go with Adams as the safe bet. Cooper Kupp is pretty cheap. He's $79 compared to some of the other studs. Matchup against the Giants is a solid one on paper. Hopefully Daniel Jones plays so this game stays somewhat competitive. I still think the Rams will win by probably double digits, but if it's within like 10 to 14 points in the fourth, still reason to throw the football for Stafford and Kupp. Well, Stafford to Kupp. Now DeAndre Hopkins against Cleveland. Finally got into the end zone once again last week after going 3 weeks, after having his first touchdown since week 2. He still hasn't been getting a ton amount of targets out there in Arizona this year. They've utilized a lot of receivers. Rondale Moore is having a good year. AJ Green is having a resurgent year. And then they're utilizing the running backs. Like Connor's getting a ton of touchdowns, and then Edmonds is getting a good amount of targets. But anytime you get a stud receiver at a pretty good price tag in what game should be a shootout against Cleveland, I would always side with that. The mid-range Terry McLaurin, he's going to be popular. People are going to pair him with Taylor Heineke. So he's $7,100. He's underpriced. We've already seen him have huge games already this year, and this is another one on paper that should be another probably 20-plus fantasy points for McLaurin. Jamar Chase, he has quickly turned into one of the best big play wide receivers in football. Just within the first 5 games, he's had numerous touchdowns of over 50 yards already. Matchup against Detroit is another solid one for him to add to that list. I love doing a Burrow Chase mix-in stack for tournaments, even in cash. I think that's fine. Keenan Allen against Baltimore. Allen is just a little bit underpriced right now. Mike Williams didn't practice on Thursday, so there's a chance Mike Williams doesn't play on Sunday, and if that is the case, it's going to be very hard to fade Keenan Allen at only $6,400. He's still getting like averaging 10-plus targets every single week. It's just that they're not going for a ton of yards, and he only has 1 touchdown. So that's going to change over the course of the year, even though he might not be the number 1 option in the red zone with Mike Williams and Austin Eckler. For a guy who's getting that many targets, he's going to go over 100 yards very soon, and he's going to find his way into the end zone as well. He's still getting those opportunities, still getting targeted in the red zone, but they just have so many other guys that are right now getting the touchdowns. Now, Robert Woods against the Giants, another Rams receiver. If you wanted to save some money compared to Kupp, you can go with Robert Woods. We saw that Robert Woods made his presence felt last week after being very quiet the first 4, and this week I think they're probably going to keep him happy because he wasn't very happy after week 4. Still give him a good amount of targets. I think they'll still get Cooper Kupp his share, but Robert Woods only 61. He gives you big time upside, as we saw with anybody in this Rams offense between Kupp, Woods, Henderson. I think are solid plays against a bad defense where they should put up hopefully 4+ touchdowns. The value plays Marquise Brown. He's like $5,900 on Draftkings. He's cheap on Fanduel as well. But this matchup is just really solid in terms of a good game between 2 high-powered offenses that should be a shootout. And I love pairing Brown with Lamar Jackson. You can throw in Mark Andrews in the mix as well. Especially Andrews and Brown. They're just too cheap for the role that they should have on Sunday. Most likely without Sammy Watkins. Jacoby Myers is $5,500. Michael Pittman is 55. They're both pretty much the same. They're both like the same price tag. Myers has a 14 and 12 target game. Pittman is starting to get more and more targets over the past few weeks. This week, both teams have good matchups. Myers should avoid Trayvon Diggs as he plays mostly inside. I think Diggs will most likely be on Aguilar on the outside. And Pittman, matchup against Houston, I think him and Wentz make for a good stack. Just in terms of getting good targets, T.Y. Hilton said he could play, but he's still like they activated him, but he himself said that he might not play because he has to get his legs under him. And then the value play right now at the bottom is McCole Hardman. He's a great play right now. I think if Hill plays, but if Hill doesn't play, then he becomes an excellent play. He becomes the best play or the best value receiver on the slate. And then it also makes Travis Kelce become the best tight end play on the slate if there is no Tyreek Hill. He's $7,000 on DraftKings. Right now, I like going a little bit cheaper to like Mark Andrews, maybe Ricky Seals-Jones, assuming that Hill suits up on Sunday. But if Hill doesn't play, then it's going to be hard not to have Kelce in there at 7,000. He's just going to get a ton of targets. The other guys in the mid-range are Dalton Schultz against the Patriots and Noah Fant against the Raiders. Schultz has made a big impact. The Dallas offense has been rolling, and the tight ends have played a big part in that. Like CeeDee Lamb just has 2 touchdowns. Amari Cooper has done well in most games, but Schultz has been very consistent all year. Even last week he had a good game, but even dropped a touchdown, so could have had an even better game. And then although at the bottom, besides Ricky Seals-Jones, who is going to get a lot of work in place of Logan Thomas once again, Hunter Henry against Dallas seems like Mac Jones has kind of found a little bit of a security blanket in Hunter Henry. They're utilizing him a lot more, getting him good targets. He also been targeted inside the red zone as well. So he gets he's just had touchdowns the last couple of weeks. I think there's a chance he can also have another very good game against Dallas. And then the defense plays this Sunday. The Rams are the most expensive defense by a lot, by $800 on DraftKings. If there's no Daniel Jones, I think they become viable. If Jones plays, I don't want to pay that much for any defense. I think I'd rather go to the Colts cheaper against Houston, a bad offense, even though they looked good last Sunday. But I think, Mills probably isn't going to have 3 touchdowns once again and be almost perfect completing the ball. Mid-range, the Cowboys against the Patriots. That defense came away with multiple picks. Trayvon Diggs leading the league by far in interceptions. And Mac Jones, that offense struggles to move the ball downfield consistently. They could have a couple of good drives, but I think the Cowboys defense will be able to get to them, get some sacks, get some turnovers. The Vikings against Carolina, Darnold has 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So Darnold has gotten a lot of fantasy production from his legs because he's had like 5 rushing touchdowns, I believe. But the Vikings can get some pressure on the quarterback. And Darnold, we all know that he gives you some risk in terms of just throwing interceptions. All it takes is one interception turn into a touchdown, and your defense is looking very good. Then at the bottom, there's not a ton of good value plays at defense at all. Like under 3,000, there's not any defense that I'm like really loving this Sunday. We've had last couple of weeks, but this week I think the $3,000 plus range is where I'm going to be looking at. If you did want to go down in the 2K range at defense, I think the Cardinals against Cleveland, just because they have a talented defense that can get pressure on the quarterback. Baker Mayfield has looked great at times this year, and then he's also not looked great against like Minnesota. So if he kind of looks like he did against Minnesota this Sunday, then I think the Cardinals defense will probably have like 12 plus fantasy points. And then the Washington football team, they're the min-price defense, $2,000. Just a pure pump play. If you didn't want to spend too much time looking at that, you could plug in that defense. The only thing I'll say right now is if there's no Tyreek Hill, they look like viable. If Tyreek Hill plays, then I think that the Chiefs are going to put up some points. You're just going to have to hope that Mahomes continues to throw some picks, or maybe they get like a fumble, or they get like a kickoff return, or something crazy happens. But that's about it for the video. Thank you for watching. Best of luck on Sunday, and I'll see you all next time.